back to the eCommerce B2B Uncut podcast. I'm your sometimes host, Aaron Sheehan, and we have a special episode today. Today's episode is short. It was recorded at the B2B Online trade show conference in Chicago, Illinois, last week with eCommerce customer UFPI. I have been informed that the I is silent. They prefer to go by UFP, United Forestry Products. They serve a variety of markets globally, supplying timber to construction, industry, packaging, and other applications. We had two gentlemen from UFP on stage with me who I got to interview, and it was fantastic. The topic of our presentation on stage was around getting adoption for digital commerce initiatives inside of B2B organizations. And it's really about internal marketing, right? It's about how do you get people on board for your journey as you're taking your, let's say, manufacturing or distribution team into the new realm of digital. Often that can be an externally imposed journey, right? Your customers make you do it. Your board makes you do it. Your president or C-suite makes you do it. How do you get everyone else who needs to be part of that digital transformation along for the ride and singing from the same hymn book? And so I was pleased to be joined by Kevin and Sean from UFP, two very experienced old hands at B2B digital transformation. They'll introduce themselves on the recording. You'll hear my questions. You'll hear their very insightful answers. It was a lot of fun to be on stage with them and to share their learning with an audience in Chicago. So without any more talking, here is the recording from the presentation.
So I'm Kevin Pearson. I am the project manager for this job to do.
That sounds fantastic.
I've been with UFP now for 2 years. Sean and I have worked together in the past. He brought me in to help out with this. We've been running this together for the past year and a half to get this project up and running.
Fantastic. Okay. So good. So you've had good recent experience, but I understand from looking at your LinkedIn's 5 minutes before this panel that you guys have done similar things at other well-known companies. What is your experience? And you guys can, either one of you can take this question or both of you can talk over each other. What's been your relevant experience in digital transformation in e-commerce prior to UFPI?
I'll go first. So I started back in 2004, cut my teeth in the motorcycle industry. If you're a Chicagoan or you're into cars and motorcycles, I worked for a company called J.C. Whitney. We were a catalog company back then. They were early adopters of internet. In 2004, when I was there, we sent out 60 million catalogs that year, and that was actually down from the previous years. We had about 20,000 products online in my category in motorcycle and about 100,000 overall. Back then, that data management was insane. Since then, I did a couple of startups in the motorcycle industry, and then a small company called Grainger found me. And Grainger? Yeah, they've been around a little bit.
Never heard of it.
Another company there, Zorro. So I did the startup for Zorro. I was the sixth employee, first non-Grainger employee hired on. And then Kevin came on shortly after.
Yep. Going to work at Zorro was kind of my first step into e-com. That was about 15 years ago. I started there as a product data team member, and then I moved into building and running their customer service group. From there, with the involvement with our ERP and CRM, they moved me into IT operations, where I supported all of that. Built out our PMO at that organization, and then from there moved into customer procurement, acquisition, little digital marketing, and actually had copywriters reporting to me somehow in that mix. I don't know how.
Okay. Why not? Right. It's e-commerce. Everything is e-commerce, right?
Yeah.
No, I love it. So you guys are both very experienced change managers, it sounds like. Change leaders, tastemakers.
Yes.
One might say.
I like
Here,
that.
it's a nice one. So you mentioned it, of course, at UFPI, you've just launched a new e-commerce experience. So Kevin, who's using it and how does it actually help your customers?
Well, our site is, right now we have our independent retail customers on the site. Those are typically mom and pop lumber yards or custom deck builders or custom home builders and remodelers. So we have a group of 4 test customers that are on it right now that are helping us get through some real heavy testing on it. And we also have our inside sales team and our outside sales team on the site as well to help support those customers in using the site. The Oro impersonation mode has been a huge help for that.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you.
we can help
There's
them
the
click
commercial.
through the site. Yeah, there you go. Check the box.
Yep.
But how it's helped them is we've been able to do a few things. Obviously, the basic things, give them the ability to order online and see our products and inventory. But prior to that, it was a phone call, it was an email, it was a text saying, "Hey, do you have this? Can I get this?" We also give them the ability to see their order history and their invoices and their bills of lading, all things that most of us in here are like, well, that's normal, nothing to it. But that was still a phone call into somebody who had to chase it down. Our pricing in the lumber industry is very volatile. It changes week to week. So we have to be able to provide them with their weekly pricing and be able to have that update automatically so they know what that is. That was another phone call or a drop off of a price sheet every week. So those are some of the things that we built the site around to help with that.
I like it. I like it. So, Sean, it sounds like from what Kevin was saying, maybe you said at the beginning, UFPI does things the old way or did do things the old way. Kevin was talking about all of the experiences and pieces of information and data that are being surfaced through the new UFPI site on WorldCommerce. So what drove the decision within UFPI to learn about this newfangled internet thingy? And I'm kind of curious how the sales team felt about it being so old school, as you mentioned.
So previous to me joining 3 years ago, two of our big customers, Home Depot and Lowe, forced us into e-commerce. So we're a stocking vendor of theirs. We're a very large supplier. They made us drop ship for them. So we all of a sudden we're an e-commerce company. There was no real strategy or anything behind it. So they brought me in from the outside just because I had done it before to help kind of drive that longer term strategy. And early on, like Kevin said, all the sales folks were getting literally text, emails. We still get faxes. So we decided we need a B2B site right away. So we got leadership buy-in to that, started the whole process of launching it. The buy-in from the sales team and any other group was fantastic out of the gate. So we say, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's all these modern features we're going to give. Here's work we're taking off of your staff. But the problem is once we started to ask them to do work to help us build that site. So conceptually, everybody's on board, thinks it's phenomenal. But once we said, okay, now we need your people to dedicate a few hundred hours to this so we could have pricing in line or we could have marketing content. That's when we really started to figure out we had to internally sell as much as the salespeople are selling on the outside.
We had to sell them everything they asked for.
Oh, so everything they want, promise them that,
Right.
and like deliver something, roughly equivalent. So I'm super curious then, as leaders, Sean and then Kevin, or Kevin and then Sean, whichever order you prefer, age or beauty, as the leaders tasked with delivering the site, how did you approach getting that buy-in? Besides over-promising, obviously, what was the process of okay, it's the beginning, your customers are demanding it. So evolution is forced on you from customer demands. Okay, you're going to deliver it. How do you go about finding out what to build? And how do you go about talking to the people and getting the information, the requirements to know what to build?
So I'll start it out and then pass it over to Kevin. So since I was there before Kevin, I actually interviewed every one of our sales staff that were out in the field. Interviewed most of the account managers, a whole bunch of inside sales folks, and that group consists of a few hundred people. And then some customers as well to say, okay, here's what I think you need as an e-commerce guy. Here's what I think you should have. Our industry is, as I said earlier, a little behind. So we didn't want to make it too complicated either. So we actually kind of set it up in a way that we're hoping this older generation, as they age out, will absorb the site, use the site as the younger generation takes over. So it was through that discovery that we kind of figured out what we needed. And then I worked on the internal selling part to get the leadership involved. And then Kevin came on and had to do the heavy lifting of getting kind of that middle management layer, which is where the biggest frustrations usually come in.
Yes, and I appreciate you passing that to me.
You're welcome.
A lot of fun. We had another good partner on this, Axis Digital, and we did a big discovery with our teams on that to show them what we needed to get done, get the right information from them, and go through about 9 weeks of that discovery. And in doing so, we were able to show them what we needed and what we're going to do with the site, and around the parameters that they gave us. And that allowed us to get them a little more on board in that time. So it was extremely helpful to do that. And once that was said and done, then, we started, it was a little easier to pull their people in as the project progressed.
That makes complete sense. So it's a combination getting the requirements up front and then keeping people enthusiastic about it along the way, because you're asking for significant involvement from your middle management.
Right.
The middle management has to go in and say, okay, I need people to dedicate time, pull them off of their existing duties, go in and start figuring out how you do things in a way that a programmer can then replicate on the site.
Right. And then the old startup guys and Kevin and I then also just said, okay, our groups can't get to this. So my team is going to go ahead and execute this in the beginning. It's not going to be exactly what we want until their groups can get involved and give us some resources.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So Kevin, how do you once you got your stakeholders hyped up, now they're ready for this magic site that will descend from the heavens and solve all of the digital transformation needs. People can find their bill of lading at last. How do you keep that level of buy-in along the entire way? How long was your implementation journey?
Once we got through the discovery, we did this in about 6 months to get to test customers up. But there was the 9 weeks of discovery before that, and then all the fun we know about with contracts, that kind of slowed things down.
I've heard of those. Yeah.
But from start to finish right now, we're about, a year, little over a year in?
Probably a year and a half with the internal selling and all of that.
So a year and a half total lifetime, but the actual implementation itself took 6 months. So that's 12 months of stakeholder involvement, interviews, procurement processes, vendor selection, discovery, and all of that. Okay. Wow. That's quite a ratio. And I think from my experience anyway, a lot of companies underestimate this part of it, right? It's like I'm going to hire a contractor and they're going to replace a toilet. Yeah. And then that's it. And it's done. And the idea of spending a year talking about it ahead of time maybe wasn't on the plan. Right?
Correct.
Yep. So I'm super curious then. So you've got it, you're building it, you're keeping involvement, right? Are you going back to the various middle managers and stakeholders, your sales team, your finance teams, your marketing team, your ops people? Are you showing them the site along the way? Or is it sort of like, don't look in here, don't look in here?
No, we definitely kept them involved along the way. As we were, we did the whole agile approach. And as we were building out, the comps for the site and the strawman, we brought them along with us on that to show them, okay, these are the features you asked for. Here's how we're building them. Are we on the right path? Are we getting what you want out of, this build? And that kept the sales team and the other departments that we were relying on, pricing and marketing, heavily involved in the site. So they knew what was going on along the way. We were just extremely communicative on a weekly basis with a lot of different levels of management, the senior leadership, the middle management, different departments, letting them know exactly, here's what we accomplished, here's what we were able to release for you, and this is what's coming next. Be ready to, give us your feedback, and just had a really strong feedback loop to really make sure that they stayed in the know of what was going on as part of the process.
That's impressive. That's a lot of work, I'm guessing.
Kevin doesn't sleep a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I took a nap on lunch today.
Yep, that's a good time to do it. Well, so I'm super curious then. Sean, how do you keep the magic going? How do you keep the magic alive after all these years? No, between the two of you, obviously, but you're live, right? You launched, you said March, is that right?
Yep, early March.
So 6 weeks or so that you've done it. How do you keep the momentum going? How do you keep those stakeholders bought in and providing feedback and meaningfully being part of a testing regime, documenting that, and then also getting adoption? Because you're probably rolling it out to new people, right? How does that process work, and what have you seen so far?
So we've been, like Kevin just mentioned a moment ago, we communicate too much because we learned early on that these folks don't understand kind of what we were doing. It's new to the company, new to the organization. So we wanted to make sure that every step of the way they knew what was taking place, what was happening. When we launched in early March, we actually wound up finding some big pricing bugs that took us about a month to fix. So really, it's been
We're not talking about bugs.
Bugs don't exist.
No.
eCommerce is the best thing in the world. Please donate money. So really was about 2 weeks worth of orders that we're getting now. So we're discovering a lot of stuff. The sales staff that is utilizing it currently is pretty on board because we have been hands-on. We've gone to the customers with them face to face. We said, hey, here's what we're building. And again, we want that direct feedback. We're about to launch about another 15 customers in the next couple of weeks. We think we're going to get some momentum there. But the internal part is the selling. And I'm going to blow up Kevin a little bit on this one. I truly think one of the things that are missed when people are launching big projects like this is the importance of the project manager is actually your salesperson internally. And it's not just somebody checking a box and getting a lot of things done. It is that constant and never ending, this is why I'm doing it for you. This is how it's going to benefit you to all the other departments. To me, that's how we keep that momentum going. And then once the customers start rolling in, we're also doing a bit of a media blitz once we get past this next round of customers. So we'll get stuff out to the public. But that's how we're hoping this momentum piece is going to stay.
And we're also, weekly meeting with our customers who help us with the launch, getting their feedback on what they like, what they don't like, what's been working. We had all that discovery and we asked a lot of questions, but I was there a year and a half. I don't know. This is my first time in the lumber industry. So I was just going off of my own background to ask what I needed to ask. And turns out, we asked a lot of the right questions, but then after we got close to launch, those answers changed or had additional answers that we didn't know to ask about. So we had to kind of pivot pretty quickly, but by getting, this core group of customers and this group of salespeople together, they were able to give us pretty quick and immediate feedback. So we could fix some of these user experience and user interface issues we ran into. The pricing, it was like all hands to fix that. It was really a great group effort on all sides. And by doing that, now we're starting to see more traction, more activity, and a lot more feedback from these customers who are now getting more comfortable with it. So that's been pretty effective too in helping us out to get it right.
That's fantastic. So your final words of advice then for the group is empower your project managers to not only check the box and go through the Gantt chart, but to actually be marketers and salespeople for the effort, and to prepare and leave room for the unknowns that pop up once you've actually built something and shown it to them. Any other final thoughts then that you would like to leave this room full of lovely people with about how to manage adoption for digital transformation?
Back to the over-communicate piece too.
Yeah.
I think the internal selling and the over-communicating is what has been successful for us, at least in a very old organization where people have been there forever. Our systems are just horrific. So that helps everybody help us out to build them their product.
Fantastic. I think we are at time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Do we have time? You're pacing, so I guess that means the hook's about to come out. All right. Then I guess we're done. If you have questions, we will be towards the back for a few minutes. If you want to talk to them, you want to talk to those guys, not me. And it's been lovely speaking with you all. Thanks so much.